Hello again, this is Konstantin Papageorge. Today we're going to talk about themes in ethics and expertise. Really big things that cannot be exhausted in one, two, three, or 100 presentations, but it's a good thing to open a window in things you have maybe never heard about in a maybe concise and complete way. And anyway, I want to give my own viewpoint because they are relevant to what we do, developing motor experts in regard to our own role and the role of our athletes. Understanding basic theory will also help us to make conscious and informed choices in relevant matters. So the first part is ethics, and be sure that what I'm going to give you is a really dense overview and summary of the field. Okay, so let's have a very general overview of what's going on. Philosophy deals with the relationship between ideas. Epistemology seeks the origin of these ideas. Ontology, the substance that we base these ideas. Ontology is from the Greek on, which means entity. Aesthetics has to do with the idea of beautiful. Political philosophy deals with everything that has to do with ideas related to the way we interact to each other, we organize societies. Ethics has to do with good and bad. In specific, ethics is about evaluating certain circumstances or situations, whereas metaethics talks about the terms of ethics. For example, in ethics we may say that killing is good or killing is bad, and argue in favor or against that. But in metaethics we will discuss about, okay, and what does good means? Is it something that exists somewhere? Is it a universal, as we would say in metaphysics? Or is it just a name that doesn't mean anything? So that's metaethics. Metaphysics is the domain of philosophy that has to do with ideas that cannot be proven, let's say, or observed in the world. For example, when I'm talking about equality, I'm saying this is red. Okay, this is equality, or I'm saying this is good, or I'm saying this is fast. Okay, is there an entity that materializes this quality, or is it just a name? Of course, this cannot be ever proven. Okay, it's just a metaphysical idea. And there is also analytic philosophy, which is considered to be, it's modern, it's considered to be the seventh domain. But there are still other fields like continental philosophy, medieval philosophy that have their own characteristics. Of course, they too use some of the fields that we previously mentioned. So our interest will be on ethics, even though, for example, epistemology was very important while developing this system, because in epistemology we also have the methodology of science. Also political philosophy, because it has to do with expertise and so on, as we will see later on. So, a really brief history of ethics. And when I'm saying a really brief history of the foundations of ethics, I'm really talking about Western philosophy, okay? Because there is Chinese classical philosophy, ethical philosophy that is slightly different, okay? And you can find relevant themes or unique themes there. So this is not the absolute and the only way to categorize the various ideas in ethics, but I think it's a good way to start. So everything I say about ethics, many people think that okay, everybody has their own ideas and everything is relevant and so on and so forth. But this is not quite true, because whatever you may imagine falls under a certain category, and this category has been exhaustively discussed, and the pros and cons to every one of these approaches have already been presented. Not a single one of these approaches is perfect. Okay, everything solves some problems but creates some other problems. Okay, so I will go through each one of them based on a simple example. Okay, so my simple example is killing is bad. Okay, this is an obvious maybe example, but not always. For example, is killing an animal a bad thing? But let's say killing is bad. Okay, so we have intuitionalism, which says that what's my intuition, or what does my religion says. Okay, so I have the intuition, or I have a religion telling me that it's bad to kill. So it's ethically it's bad, because when I'm talking about ethics and when I need to categorize an action as good or bad, I'll always have to decide based on what criteria I will evaluate my action. There is no ethics without criteria. I can't say that I have just an ethical intuition. Well, I can't say that. That's intuitionism. Okay, so let's say killing is bad. So maybe my religion says it's bad to kill. Other religions may say, oh, it's good to kill for the god or something like that. We have natural law, which is another approach that says that nature itself dictates what is good or bad, and good is identified with natural. For example, okay, it's natural law for the stronger to kill the weaker. So there you go, maybe that's an answer on behalf of the natural law supporters. Of course, other natural law supporters may have different ideas, but the criteria are basically based on how nature works. And for example, based on natural law, many people would even now say that homosexuality is bad because males have a penis and females have a vagina, and this is how nature works. So as you can see, in some things a natural law is convenient, because we can, for example, we can think that nature has some kind of wisdom, so to say, so it's good to observe how are things in nature, but usually the basic problem with natural law theories is that you cannot dictate the function, or you cannot dictate what should be based on what is. So there is no reason why someone having, for example, okay, a penis or something, they should use it in a very specific way because nature dictates it. Okay, that's a very big problem, because not the problem, the principle in all these systems is that you have to be consistent. So if I believe that natural law is my system of choice, then okay, I should go and explore all the nature and find out if in all nature the behavior I'm looking for is the same, which is not the case. I may want to remind you that, for example, in our case, killing happens, so in nature. So is this natural? Is this okay? Is this ethically good because it happens? Or homosexuality happens too in nature. It's really a very common practice. But also, what else happens in nature is that there are not two sexes. There are cases where there are 3, 4, or even more sexes. So I think that there are organisms that have as many as 1,000 or 2,000 sexes in their population, like we have male and female. Okay, uh, so how do you evaluate something based on natural law only? It has problems. You shouldn't eat, processed food because that's not natural, and so on. So then we go, but our example is still about killing. So natural law, for example, that's just an example. Okay, it's not the absolute truth of natural law enthusiasts, for example. Okay, so natural law, it's okay to kill because it's happening in nature. Contractarianism, because it says, and I have a very famous book here, it's Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes. Leviathan is the king, the monstrous king, the biblical monster that we have put to organize us because we are animals, we are, let's say, stupid, we have conflicting interests, and we want a higher order, a higher principle to make rules for us so we can follow and we don't kill each other. Okay, so we make contracts. So we say, okay, maybe we should agree, everyone, and make a contract that we should not kill each other. Okay. Of course, one problem of contractarianism is when did we actually sign such a contract and who, and even if someone actually did sign such a contract, can it apply for us as well many generations later? But generally speaking, contractarianism is something that is very close to how our society works, because in our society the contracts are more or less the laws, and even if we disagree sometimes, we say, okay, it's just a contract made between people to work better, we elect the governments and stuff like that. Aristocracy. Aristocracy from the Greek word arete, which means a virtue. Virtues are predispositions of our character that lead to well-being. So, is killing good or bad based on aristocracy? It seems to be a bad thing because it's not virtuous to take the life of another person, or if you see the list of virtues, you will see that these virtues dictate that it's a bad thing to kill. Moderation and courage are, for example, such virtues. Um, so, utilitarianism. Now, this is both a political system and an ethical system, and it's actually how we organize our societies nowadays. It's almost considered to be the, you know, the basic system, and most people actually agree with it without even knowing that it's called utilitarianism. So, how do we make choices, ethical choices? We say that we have utility, which can be also explained as uh, happiness, actually, just happiness, maybe, okay, that's maybe a good approach. And we say that what is ethical is whatever enhances happiness or utility from the most people possibly. So we have two kinds of utilitarianism. This mummy here is Bentham, um, that his idea of act-based utilitarianism was the first actual relevant theory, and this is actually his mummy. His head was not very well preserved. It was his wish to be mummified, and so that he can attend to all the meetings in, I don't know, some kind of royal society in England. Uh, okay, he was a really weird person back then, and One of his students is John Stuart Mill, a really brilliant man. John Stuart Mill introduced rule-based utilitarianism, because the problem of act-based utilitarianism is that if you study each act separately, then you have many contradictions. So it's better to seek for rules that enhance the general utility and not acts. So, what does utilitarianism say about killing? It says this: if killing reduces general well-being, general utility, it is a bad thing. But if it enhances the general utility and the general happiness, it's a good thing. That's what utilitarianism per se says. So, deontocracy and utilitarianism is considered to be consequentialism. That is, we evaluate an act based on its consequences, on its results. But just like meritocracy, deontocracy thinks, when we say deontocracy, we mean Kantian deontocracy, thinks that an act is good or bad irrespective of its results. And maybe sometimes the results are bad, okay, but still it's the right thing to do. Kant gave us two categorical imperatives, two guidelines that we should follow. We should always, that's the two categorical imperatives are that we should always treat others as the end in themselves and not as means to another end. So, for example, it's a bad thing to kill someone, to kill ourselves, or someone to rob him or whatever, because we have used him as a means to a different end. And the other categorical imperative is that the first one is that we should always act as if our acts, our actions, were a universal law. So this means I want to decide if killing is good or bad. So what's the criterion? It is this simple one. Would I choose to live in a society that it has as a universal law that it is a good thing to kill? Probably I would say no. The problems of the deontocracy is that it has some very weird consequences. For example, because I wouldn't like to live in a society that lying is considered to be a good and a universal law, I should never lie. So I should always speak the truth. I should, if I had to say something very disturbing to someone, I couldn't use a lie, a white lie, to make them feel better. I should tell the truth, for example. Anyway, aristocracy, by the way, is a mixed theory. It's both about consequences and what should be done. In deontocracy, the first word, deon, is from the Greek theon, which means what has to be done. So, nowadays, we don't follow, even if utilitarianism is actually one of the basic themes today, we don't really follow utilitarianism fully 100%. And for example, this is obvious in cases where we have a rapist or a murderer, and actually we can see that the society would feel better if we killed them. But it seems that we have other principles that prohibit us from doing so, even if the general prosperity or general utility would arguably be higher after this act. So we don't have 100% utilitarianism. What we have is called applied ethics. So in applied ethics, we have taken from, let's say, all the traditions, some elements, and we have synthesized, uh, let's say, a series of guidelines. So, for example, these are some principles of the applied ethics. It's truthfulness, say the truth, confidentiality, don't reveal secrets, especially when it comes to patient-doctor relationships, autonomy and informed consent. Now, that's a very big issue now, especially with internet and GDPR and stuff like that. The beneficence, do what is good, non-maleficence, do not do what is bad, and justice, which is a general umbrella idea that has to do with fairness, equality, impartiality, and I have this comic right next to show that being just does not mean being equal. Okay. Um, in applied ethics, there are now some organizations like and some treaties like the Oviedo Convention. For example, in this specific one, I took part also. I presented a paper there. And for example, to just get an idea of how things work in applied ethics, the Oviedo Convention says, which is the first legally binding international text designed to preserve human dignity, rights, and freedoms through a series of principles and prohibitions against the misuse of biological and medical advances. So that's its scope. It bans all forms of discrimination based on the grounds of a person's genetic makeup. The Convention sets out rules related to medical research. The Convention states the principle according to which a person has to give the necessary consent for a treatment. The Convention stipulates that all patients have a right to be informed about their health. So this is how, for example, nowadays ethics are laid out. When we go to sports ethics, and I have here two of my papers about sports ethics, some relevant themes are cheating, steroids, superhumans, and equality. Superhumans, because I have also my dear friend Professor Gogaki, who deals with this Nietzschean idea and how it was twisted in a way, because a superhuman is the Nietzschean idea of the human that doesn't, for example, need a god to dictate to him or to her an ethical system. So in a way, the superhuman has killed God in that he takes full responsibility for himself or herself. And what's another thing a superhuman does? It's going beyond our own personal limitations. As you can see, clearly the superhuman idea has been twisted nowadays, and it's about professionalism and competitions and making big money and stuff like that, and the quality issues in sports. So some related ideas, okay, that can be discussed and are relevant to sports ethics is about winning. Winning is everything. That's a phrase that needs, discussion with using ethical tools and guidelines and argumentation. Another one is it's only cheating if you get caught. That's reveals a stance on behalf of many people, and it needs to be examined also. It is a referee's job to catch wrongdoing, and the athletes and coaches have no inherent responsibility to follow the rules. Again, we can really discuss on this and make arguments and counter arguments, and the ends always justify the means. That's another classic approach. So let's see a very nice case study about breaking the rules, because rules are one of the most important thing in sports. A game is its rules. If we don't follow the rules, we cannot play. So we have on one instance the hand of God, and that's I don't really I'm not really into football, okay, but I've read that he put a goal with his hand and the referees didn't see it, and later on it was revealed because they saw it on television recorded and stuff like that. So it was revealed that it was his hand, but no big deal was made out of it. Both the opponent teams and the opponent fans and his own fans, it was something like it went under the radar. So nobody. There was some controversy, but till then, no formal actions were taken, okay, from any official about this issue. It was just a moment that everybody found it to be more or less acceptable. On the other hand, we have Suarez that broke the rule of, the limits of contact and aggression, and he beat one of his opponents. And this was really a big issue, and he was banned for 4 months and stuff like that. So when we first discuss about this, it seems obvious that things were fine. I mean, yes, it was a bad thing to attack the opponent, and the other case was a borderline case, so it's okay about Maradona and the hand of God. But if we wanted to discuss a bit more about that, okay, first of all, Maradona's action did result in a different score. It did make a very big difference because they won, okay. Whereas the action of Suarez did not alter, to that extent at least, the outcome of the game. And the outcome of the game is one of the most important things in sports. Okay, don't forget about that. So it seems that the most serious action, as far as the game is concerned, was not nearly as negatively discussed as the action of Suarez. But there are more things. So, harming others is viewed as an absolute evil. Okay, that's why you say that, okay, Maradona didn't harm anyone physically, but the other person did harm. And it's also, this is considered so important that many players really pretend harm because they want the opponent to get punished. And this is something that happened in this case as well. I mean, the opponent really tried to, of course he was beaten, but he really tried to show this. And there are many cases in football that players are not really injured, but they fake their injury. Okay. On the other hand, coaches do allow and do encourage slight tackles, which are inherently dangerous for the opponent, for a person. So it's not that harming others is viewed as absolutely evil in the end, because it's a behavior that it's actually encouraged by both coaches, players, and fans. And this was okay. It was not just about maybe harming the other person, the biting thing. It was maybe also about insulting the other person. But is that casuistry? I mean, is that just taking out of the context a very specific case? Because let's talk about insulting behaviors in football, where the fans are really insulting everybody all the time, and the players also at various instances. And this is, I don't know, for the better or the worse, this is a part of the game. And everybody who was heartbroken about this bite, would they watch soccer were it not for this macho type of violence? I'm not in favor of macho type violence or violence in sports and stuff like that. I do know it's in our nature and we need psychotherapy and we need to express it. Okay, that's a different thing. But I mean, I don't encourage it. Go play and harm others and be aggressive to others. But we know that people, many people, actually watch football because of the violence. And personally, I do know many people who go to watch football live to be violent. And how much contact is too much contact in a contact sport? And when are ethical lines crossed? And who chooses them, these ethical lines, to begin with? So these are some issues that show that it's not so clear that in the first case everything is okay and in the second case it's pure evil. And you should then go on and generalize this discussion. It's a good thing maybe to talk with such things with tennis players, because maybe it shows a more general context. So generalize then into specific cases in tennis and to more everyday situations. We must always generalize. We must generalize technical aspects of our game and we must generalize ideas. And in special needs education, generalization is something that it's done not at all automatically as it's done in the typical population, and you have to consciously generalize everything you do to other contexts. But of course you should do that to a point, even to typical population. Generalize ideas, not just think that okay, because you have mentioned it, it becomes universal for every other case. No, it doesn't work this way always. So, how do we evolve our players ethically? We discuss about situations, we engage in dialogue, and there is no 100% right answer. Okay, we do some role playing. For example, we use theater pedagogy techniques, and we establish rituals and norms that make these ethical principles more explicit in our actions. And here is an idea how values, ethics, and virtues are transforming habits and behaviors, and character flourishes. The character is built. Some years ago, I did a series of lectures about logic and ethics, and I've named it Homo Logicus meets Homo Ethicus. And this is from the demo, but it was in Greek, but I remembered it and I thought I'll put it here. Okay, so please continue now to the second part about expertise.